Hi, I'm Charles Purcell, and this is The Log for Monday, August 24. Oh, the world is insane right now. Where do we begin? All right, well, you know what? I'm not going to even try to make any sense of this. I'm not going to put anything in order. I've got all these notes in front of me. I'm going to go a little stream of consciousness today, if that's all right with you guys. Of course, the Republican National Convention starts tonight, so a full week of coverage, if that is, I can handle it. I honestly don't know at this point if I'm going to be able to just deal, you know? Last week, we devoted pretty much the entire week to the Democrats and their convention, so I thought I'd do the same. The angle we took last week was, it was the DNC for lefties. My whole approach was I wanted progressives, lefties, a place to kind of hold each other's hands and get through it. Because I knew it was going to be a really strange and maybe a rough week for progressives. And it was. They mostly ignored us. AOC and Bernie had their moments to tell us, don't worry, you guys, we're going to be fine. I don't know how many of you they convinced. Great episode of Democracy Now! Last week. Was it Friday? I think it was Friday after it was all over. Yeah, with Ben Jealous and Cornel West. I would highly recommend you go check that out. If you're a progressive going through a rough time right now, good smart words from Ben Jealous and Cornel West. Go to democracynow.com or wherever.org. I'm pretty sure it was Friday's show, if I'm not mistaken. So, speaking of Cornel West, the People's Convention is coming up. Speaking of conventions, Movement for a People's Party, People's Convention 2020, August 30th. It's a one-day event. Starts at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, so right here in Central Time. You know, I'm coming to you from River West, the greatest neighborhood in the world, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So that would be, 3 p.m. our time. For far too long, I'm reading from their website, for far too long we have watched both corporate-funded political parties pillage and devastate our country, our communities, and our families. Now it's time for us to ask, what kind of world do we want to build from the ashes of this pandemic and economic depression? 1 week after the Democratic and Republican National Conventions, people from all walks of life will come together to discuss the state of the nation and plans to form a major new political party in America. A party free of corporate money and influence, a people's party. Yep, okay, so Sunday, August 30th, from 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern. Again, that's 3 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock Pacific. For my California friends and family, oh my God, you guys, I love you. I'm thinking about you. Those fires, oh my God. That's what I say, this is crazy. I'm going to go stream of consciousness today. The convention will be digital and broadcast live to YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter pages with millions of subscribers and followers. Sign up for more information and updates. Go to peoplesconvention.org. Some of the speakers, the good Dr. Cornel West, Senator Nina Turner, my gal Marianne Williamson, who I've told you many times, no, she shouldn't be president. Yes, she's kind of crazy. But but as with everybody, okay, this is kind of my general philosophy on people. Some people can be crazy in one area and really insightful in other areas. And sometimes their areas overlap like this weird Venn diagram. Marianne Williamson has many, many good things to say. She honestly does. Yes, she's kind of a nutcase. But she gets an awful lot of things right, especially in her critique. See, that's the thing with a lot of people. Their critique will be right, but their solutions will be wrong. That's a very common thing. See, I think her critique is often spot on. Her solutions, though, solutions are harder. Critiques are easier. Solutions are harder. You know, Rand Paul often fits into that category. Oftentimes, Rand Paul, the total whack job libertarian, often his critiques are right. I'll find myself agreeing with him about what he finds wrong with the world. I find myself agreeing with him. But then he launches into his solutions, and he's totally insane. We couldn't be further off the mark from each other. So anyway, Marianne Williamson, Senator Mike Gravel, Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore is kind of fun. You know Jimmy Dore? He's a comedian, also more than a comedian. He's a media critic. I take Jimmy Dore pretty seriously. I kind of like him. Ryan Knight, activist. I don't know Ryan Knight. Some names here I don't recognize, but you know what? I should. I'll bet these are good folks because I have a lot of faith in Cornel West, and he's the #1 speaker. Also have a lot of faith in Nina Turner. So they're the two big names. So I'm definitely going to be tuning in. Sunday, August 30th, 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern, 3 to 6 p.m. Central Time for the People's Convention. And the bottom line of this, yes, Cornel West, if you listen to his recent commentary, and again, I recommend that Democracy Now! From Friday. Here's the way Cornel West sees it. You got to vote for Joe. Cornel West says you got to vote for Joe. But that's as far as he takes it. He is still as critical of Joe Biden and the Democratic Party and that whole kind of philosophy. He's as critical as ever, more so. But I think this makes sense. These are compatible views. Yes, vote for him in the 2020 election is what Cornel West says. But don't for a second think that means we're okay with it. And to have a push for this People's Party and to start right now, not to wait, to start right now, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense to me. I completely see where he's coming from. But tonight is the Republicans' turn. So as we had a little bit of a theme last week to help progressives, help the lefties stomach this thing, I think our theme this week will be, and we'll see how things turn out, but I'm going into it with this thought. They are going to try to trigger us every night. They take no greater pleasure than making us crazy. They want to make us angry. They want to make us mad. They love it. They love it. They love it. They think it works for them. Politically, it works for their base. So I guess my approach this week is to try not to take the bait. We do have to answer for the horrible lies they're going to say about us. They're going to tell about us because they're going to just make up things that you couldn't find in the wildest fantasy novel about who progressives are and what we want and what we believe and what we stand for. So we do have to at least answer that. There's nothing wrong with being outraged at that which is outrageous, to borrow a line that I like from, paraphrasing, of course. There's a great play called I'm Not Rappaport. Who wrote that? I'm going to look that up real quick for you. You may have seen the film, but it's based on a play. Oh, directed by Herb Gardner. I'm going to have to go. You know what? I'm going to have to check out the film. I like Herb Gardner. But it was based on a play. Oh, okay. Also by Herb Gardner. Well, there you go. No wonder I liked it so much. Yeah, I saw the play on Broadway. I'm Not Rappaport. Anyway, little side note there. Check out the 1996 film, and if you can find somebody doing a production somewhere. Hey, there you go. I have a new life goal. I want to, because these are a couple of old guys. Now that I'm older, I've missed out on a couple of my dream roles. When I was a kid, I really wanted to play Pippin. Everything has its season. Everything has its time. Show me a reason, and I'll soon show you a rhyme. I think that's how it goes. Yeah, I wanted to play Pippin. That was my dream role. But now I'm way too old to play Pippin. So yeah, I think I want to play. I want to play Nat in I'm Not Rappaport. There you go. I have a new dream role. Where was I? What was I talking about? Outrage. Oh yeah. Yeah. Nat says at some point something like, "Don't blame me for being outraged at that which is outrageous." because he's kind of a curmudgeon who yells about things. Yeah, watch me in a production coming to your town. I'm going to play Nat, and I'm not Rappaport. Okay, I'm talking about the Republican convention. It is okay to be outraged at that which is outrageous. But we can't take the bait and just let them make us crazy. So it's walking a fine line. I know. I'm not quite sure I understand it myself. But we're going to try to get through this week without damaging our own psyches and our own souls. Okay, we got to come through this strong. We got to keep our heads up. We got to keep a sense of humor. We're going to call them out. Oh, well, we're going to have to, everybody's going to have to fact check. The fact checkers are going to be going into overtime. This is Black Friday for the fact checkers. This is the busy season. This is like April for tax preparers. The fact checkers, oh my goodness. So it's going to be wild. It's going to be a wild, wild 4 days. As much as we can anticipate, it's going to exceed that. You could just plan on it. It's going to exceed all of our worst expectations. It's going to be crazy. Some of the speakers they've announced, let's see. They finally got around to it. It took forever to do this. Some names you might recognize, Senator Tim Scott, their one black guy. So got to have him right at the top of the list. Steve Scalise, oh, what a tool this guy is. Matt Gaetz, oh my Lord mercy. Jim Jordan, right off the top. Just the worst of the worst of the worst of these guys. Oh, man, what a bunch of tools. Some other people I don't recognize. The St. Louis couple who pointed guns at Black Lives Matter protesters. And if you don't know their names, it's Mark and Patricia McCloskey. Hey, Mark. Hey, Pat. You going to play bridge tonight? Oh, no, we got to go out with our guns and point them at the black folks. And the big speaker of the night, the keynote speaker, Donald Trump Jr. What in the world? The list of speakers and they sent out this press release, and each night has a main speaker, like a keynote. I don't know if they're going to stick to this, but it's the whole family takes a turn. Major speakers, the ones they announced first, put at the top of the bill, are all the kids, including Tiffany. If you don't know, there's a daughter named Tiffany. And Melania. Oh God, okay, we got to talk about her. This is a good case study in not being outraged, not taking the bait, but still it is outrageous and we have to bring it up. She massacred the Rose Garden. Now, you know me, I'm not somebody who's going to get all sentimental about symbols and things like that. But this just crossed the line so hard. Just complete and total disrespect. Ripped out the trees, put in a walkway, totally changed the whole look of the Rose Garden. And there were tulips in there. You know how tulips are... Okay, forgive me because I know nothing about this, but tulips are bulbs, the perennials, right? That come up on, they live forever, basically. It's like a damn redwood tree. I mean, they're there forever. And some of these things, some of these tulips, some of these plants, some of these trees have been in the Rose Garden for 100 years. And she just ripped it all up and made her own little weird kind of minimalist. I'm sure you've seen the pictures. If you haven't seen the pictures, check out the before and after of the Rose Garden. You tell me what looks better. Presidents and their spouses have contributed over the years to the Rose Garden, and in just one fell swoop, she just ripped it all up. Nope, it's mine now. Just disgusting. They're just such vile, horrible, disgusting people. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable to me. All right. We're jumping around today. Kellyanne Conway's daughter. She's 15 years old. She has quite a large presence in social media. And when they announced that speakers list for the Republican National Convention, saw that her mom was on it, Kellyanne Conway was going to speak, and that was the last straw. I'm devastated that my mother is actually speaking at the RNC, like devastated beyond compare. This is a couple of tweets from the daughter. I'm officially pushing for emancipation. Buckle up because this is probably going to be public one way or another. unfortunately, welcome to my life. She's made headlines before when her parents took away her social media at one point. Oh, they're taking away my phone. They're canceling my feeds. So she went dark for a while because she was getting too controversial and gaining thousands, millions of followers. And of course, diametrically opposed to her mother's and her father's political views. You got to remember about George Conway, Kellyanne's husband and the girl's father. As much as he's a never-Trumper, he hates the Orange Menace as much or more than anybody. Other than that, he's still very, very conservative. He remains very conservative, and the daughter, I guess, just not having it. So as soon as that happens, must have been a pretty active day at the Conway household, because then Sunday night, Kellyanne drops the bomb that she's leaving the White House and that her husband George is stepping away from the Lincoln Project. And you know the Lincoln Project, of course, a group of Republicans who are very forcefully voicing their opinions in the media, creating ads, so forth, against the Orange Menace. So, yeah, Kellyanne Conway is leaving the White House. She announced Sunday evening, according to CNN, will leave her post at the end of the month, while her husband George Conway said he was withdrawing from the Lincoln Project, both citing a need to focus on their family. No kidding. So this article from CNN really doesn't mention anything about the daughter and her tweets from earlier in the day. So good for CNN. I think that's right to not focus on the kid. But yeah, I saw this story and I looked a little further into it, and I did find the tweets from earlier from the daughter. So Republicans, drama, man, drama. Well, everybody's got drama. Everybody's got drama. Here's something else I thought I probably wouldn't talk about, and I probably shouldn't talk about. I don't know if this is a Russian-planted story, because nobody is covering this. I saw a headline from the New York Post. Nobody except right-wing and kind of shady sources are covering this. But a guy named Bill Stevenson, you might recognize his name, Jill Biden's ex-husband, accused the presumptive Democratic nominee Joe Biden of being a homewrecker and says the feel-good story of how Joe and Jill met on a blind date is completely made up. Yeah, well, without going into details, it's the kind of story that happens in every family. It's really not a big deal, except, like, I'm always railing about the Ellen DeGeneres model of putting yourself up as this perfect person and then finding out, oh, you're a human being after all? Oh, what the hell? What's going on there? And this was my big complaint last week, especially early, that first couple of nights of the Democratic convention, where they're just gushing to almost a comical degree about how perfect this guy is. You know, nobody's that perfect. Don't set people up to just fall. So here's this story that I find completely believable because it just rings true. It happens in every family. According to this, Bill Stevenson and then his wife, Jill, they knew Joe Biden. According to Stevenson, they both of them met Biden in 1972 when they worked on his campaign for the Senate. Okay, so they first met him working on the campaign. At the time, Biden was married to his first wife, who later died in the car crash, which we all know about and, of course, is very sad. But then over the course of time, I guess, Jill and Joe got very close, and Stevenson eventually found out about it and asked Jill to leave the house, which she did. Quote, I considered Joe a friend. I'm not surprised he fell in love with Jill. Everybody falls in love with Jill. So no big hard feelings about it. But this story, if this is a Russian story, and we know very well that this is what the Russians do, I think they would have made it a little more exciting. I don't know. It just sounds so natural in the course of human events. This is just what happens in families. So I just wish we lived in a world where we could have some understanding and empathy for each other, and where you don't have to lie to become president. Well, the Orange Menace didn't. We all knew where he came from. We all know his past. And then the commentary on this thing, then people draw a false equivalence. No, there's no equivalence here between the Orange Menace, constantly having affairs, constantly having little sex hookups and grabbing women by the you-know-what. No, this is two people who fell in love while one of them was still married. It happens all the time. And they fell in love and they made a family and stayed together for 100 years. And it just happens. It just happens. This is why I don't feel too bad talking about it, because I don't feel like it's at all salacious. It just happens, this stuff. Happens in every family. So now Kellyanne Conway and George Conway are having some family drama. And she's leaving the White House. She was one of the originals. Everybody's gone. Who's left? Stephen Miller. I can't think of another one. He's the only one from the original band. Stephen Miller, Trump's little Nazi buddy. Everybody else is now gone, including Steve Bannon, which I'm sure you've heard the news over the weekend. He's been arrested for his little scam. You all know that story by now. It's all a scam. Everything's a scam. Scam to raise private funds to build the border wall, and raised millions and pocketed about $1 million for himself. So that's done. And now tonight we're going to see another scam artist, Don Jr., who is forbidden by law to run any charities because he got caught stealing. He just turns every charity into a scam. Yeah, New York State, he's not allowed to run a charity in New York State, Don Jr. Nope, but he's going to be speaking tonight. I saw a great meme. Meme of the day. First of all, just do a little internet search. Type in the words, if 2020 was a, and then see what you get. Or even better, if 2020 was a meme. And then you get all the 2020 memes. So if 2020 was a car, and there's a picture of this outrageously bad car. If 2020 was a person, then there's a picture of this horribly deformed, weird, sick person. And it's just a whole list of if 2020 was a fill in the blank. Very funny little set of memes. Well, I saw the best one this weekend. I saw the very best one. The caption was, if 2020 was an election. If 2020 was an election. And the picture over the caption was just simply a picture of Joe Biden side by side with Donald Trump. I saw Christie on the Sunday shows this week. He's a regular panelist on George Snuffleupagus on ABC. And he said something I actually agreed with. He said, don't worry so much about Joe, you conservatives out there. Don't worry about Joe. Worry about all the people around him. They're going to push him to the left. They're going to have a lot more power than he has. And this is where Chris Christie and I completely agree. That's what I'm hoping for. Chris Christie is quite correct to be warning voters about what I want, because I know conservative voters don't want that. That's exactly what I want. I want his cabinet. I want everyone around him, all of his advisors, to push him. Last week I called him an empty suit. Yeah, that's kind of a mean thing to call somebody. You know, I think Joe Biden is a human being. He's a person. Like I said, he fell in love with Jill, and you know about the kid who stutters and all. I don't have any trouble believing any of that. Yeah, he's a person. He's a real person. I'm convinced. I'm totally convinced he's a real person with real feelings. So no, he's not an empty suit in that regard. When it comes to policy, when it comes to ideology, when it comes to politics, I do believe he's an empty suit. He just sort of does what he thinks people want or what's popular or what people around him are doing. I don't think he's got a great mind. I don't think he has any great ideas. I don't think he can look at problems and instantly create cogent analysis. The people I admire, Cornel West, AOC, Bernie, Ta-Nehisi Coates, Nina Turner, they can look at an issue, they can analyze the issue, they can propose solutions. They've got minds that work. in this regard. And see, and that's what I call Joe Biden an empty suit. I don't think he does that. I don't think he's ever done that. Maybe, as they claim, and I don't doubt this either, he can make deals, he can work across the aisle, maybe he's a good politician in that sense. Sure, fine. But when it comes to the actual policy ideas, the creative part of politics, what we really need to solve problems, he's an empty suit. And so Christie says, worry about the people around him. And I say, yes, let's get these people around him to push him. So Christie and I are in sync on this. The only difference is I want it and he doesn't. And you know, this whole notion that we're playing this shell game, we got to figure out what Joe is and what he isn't. What does he want? What he doesn't want? How are we going to campaign? How are we going to govern? All of this smoke and mirrors, this like magic act we have to create. I'm so sick of this. In my fantasy election, the real actual left, the people I talked about, Bernie and AOC and all of them, versus the actual right. The actual left versus the actual right, and then force voters to choose once and for all. The actual left, the real left, being honest about what they want, okay? Everybody's being honest. And the right-wingers being honest, the conservatives being honest about what they want. Actual vision, no smoke and mirrors, no magic act, no pretending to be somebody else in order to get votes. No. I want to see the actual left versus the actual right, and I want to force voters to finally say, which is it going to be? But instead, we got this weird shell game going on every 4 years. And it's really pronounced right now, where everybody's trying to figure out what Joe is and what Joe isn't, and if the Democrats are going to go progressive or conservative or moderate, or it's all this guessing game. It's all this speculation. So a voter goes into the booth saying, what the hell? I don't even understand my choice. One side, I don't even know what you're going to do. Now, I think we're pretty clear on what the Orange Menace is going to do. We have no idea what Joe wants to do. It's a guessing game. Yeah, that's my dream someday. Have an actual election where both sides are honestly presenting their case. Because I'll tell you the truth, I think the Republicans, and we're going to really learn a lot this week, I think they are honestly presenting their case. Now, they are completely lying. That's how I started the program. In fact, maybe we'll let it go full circle. We'll end here. They are definitely lying, just making things up, pure fantasy about Joe and the Democrats. They're just making things up out of whole cloth about how it's going to be anarchy and the world is going to fall apart and it's just going to burn to the ground. That's insane, okay? Where they are being honest and totally upfront, the kind of judges they're appointing, the massive deregulation, the way they want to handle taxes, they're actually being pretty honest about all that stuff. I would just love to see the voters forced to choose between the actual left and the actual right. Maybe someday. Maybe someday. All right. I love you. I'm Charles Purcell, and I'll be watching tonight. You going to watch tonight? Jeez, I don't know. I don't blame you if you can't quite stomach it. I'll watch it tonight for you, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. All right. See ya.